Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. My co host Robin and I are super excited for week after week to showcase different women from different walks of life, how they are lifting themselves up, how they are impacting others in their lives, women of all ages, lifting up communities. And that is what Women Investing in Women is all about. One of the important things we as women need to remember is we are each a divine being with the spirit and the soul inside of us. And we are blessed by nature to be the only creator of all living beings in the human race, right? So we create life and we create joy, we create peace. And all of that comes from the divine power inside of us, the physical strength inside of us, and the power we embody. And you're going to absolutely love today's conversation that is going to take us to places that you probably don't stop to think about on a day to day basis. So, Robin, take it away.
Absolutely. We are so excited to have Daphne Paras with us. And she actually was referred to us by another guest, Erin Terry. And so, any of you women listening, if you know of women who are doing great things to uplift other women, strengthen and inspire them, definitely let us know. We are so excited to have Daphne with us because she hosts a website, Sacred Seeker, specializes in firewalking and in women's empowerment. And it could not be the most perfect guest for Women's History Month, when this recording is taking place. So let us know, Daphne, how in the world did you get involved in something so unique and obscure as firewalking? And tell us about this really um, thought-provoking title of Sacred Seeker.
Absolutely. About 9 years ago, I had a spiritual awakening after I climbed a pyramid in Mexico, and my whole life seemingly fell apart to me. But it really was just reconfiguring a new path that I was called to take. And my very first teacher, Heather Ashamara, she's the author of Warrior Goddess Training. I started studying with her, and her first workshop I went to, there was a fire walk there. And I hadn't even read the agenda for the retreat. I just knew I was supposed to be there. And so many people were celebrating that they walked across 1800-degree coals. But for me, it wasn't that I walked across the coals. It was that when I first got to the coals, my body was a no, and I was able to manipulate my energy and shift it. And it was a yes, and I was able to cross the coals. And at that moment, I was like, wow, my body can go from a no to a yes in a matter of 30 seconds. If I can do that here, where else can I do that in my life? So that was the start for me of the magic of the fire. And then within 9 months, I was facilitating my own fire walks as part of the women's empowerment workshops that I was leading myself.
That is absolutely amazing. And I totally understand the power of standing on the sacred grounds of a pyramid. I have a Caribbean home right next to Zanatanich, which is a Mayan archaeological site. And every time I go there, I can feel my whole body and my energy shift. So I totally hear you. When you do this workshop and you're doing it for women in the Western world, how are you navigating the I want to see and I want to believe before I do it because you need to convince me versus I am going to let the energy flow and embrace it and feel it? The cultural approach to things are different. How are you navigating that? And what advice do you have for women who believe I need to trust and believe first before I would try anything?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Most people that come to a fire walk They have fear, they have doubts. And I always preface the experience with walking is always optional. You're part of a container of transformation, and whether you walk or not, you're still going to receive the healing. When I start facilitating, I create a container. We open as a group, we set our intentions, and the whole night is a ceremony about living intentionally. And one of my superpowers is creating a container in which people feel safe and held. So, energetically, as they enter, they already start to feel at ease. And I also do a lot of living by example. When you look at my Facebook page, you see my kids, my dog, and people have already some sort of connection to me usually. But as we navigate through the night, I teach them how to get out of the fear that lives in your head because our head is like a master computer. It's great at computing and operating our body, but the real magic is when we shift into our heart space and into our body. So the night is about reminding people, get out of your head. This isn't where the magic is in our lives. It's just calculating what our next move is or if we're turning left or right. But when we start to tap into that wisdom of our body, that's where our power is. So the whole night is this reminder, get back into your body and honor your body and its choice. So often we get put on automatic and we don't even check in with our body. So this is like, no, you actually don't have to walk. You get to really choose, but choose from that grounded, connected space in your heart rather than the fear that's going to live up in our head. And then by the time we get to the coals, people are really prepared and they're also unified as a group. And out of thousands of people that have attended my fire walks, to date, I've had 5 people choose not to walk. So the energy of the container and what we create together is so strong and solid that people feel so ready to lean into that fear and their energy is really raised so that they cross the fire that we talk about as the obstacle. And as we raise that energy, we then take it forward to other obstacles beyond the fire that are in our lives.
Yeah. This is really a phenomenal answer. I actually have participated in a fire walk, and really until you do it, you can't even imagine how it could be done. But it really is, I don't want to say miraculous. Um, in a sense, it's miraculous. In another sense, I mean, it's a sense it's miraculous. Like everything is a miracle. This internet is a miracle. But I caught on to a couple of phrases from what you were sharing with us, living intentionally or living with intention, and then getting out of or get the fear out that lives inside of our brain. You phrased it much more beautifully than I just did. But those two things, living with intention, obviously that's got to be something in your head, and then somehow quelling or harnessing or managing or dissolving the fear that exists in your head. And that is universal, especially universal to women. So how do you go about helping women identify, or maybe not even identify, just dissolve that fear?
The fear and the living intentionally are actually connected because, especially as women, we've gotten so busy. We manage so many different things. Our ancestors lived in tribes. They baked together, they did laundry together, they raised their children together. Now we're all managing our own households, plus jobs, plus aging parents. We have all of these different facets in our lives. And what it does for most women today is it puts them into their masculine energy because it takes that masculine energy to get everything done. So for women, I really try to bring them back into that divine feminine, that softness. It's still very, very powerful. As any of us know that have given birth or witnessed a woman giving birth, it's the strongest, most powerful energy in the world, but we use so much of that masculine to get our lives done. And so returning to that feminine, that softness, that flow, and living intentionally, even when we make a cup of tea in the morning, We can make it hurriedly and just throw everything together, or we can make it a sacred ritual as we steep our tea, as we add our honey, as we take the first sip, even washing dishes. So, incorporating this intentional way of living into our everyday acts is really where I start. And it's that awareness of the body, the breath, the how are my shoulders? Is my jaw clenched? Can I just sit for 10 seconds and breathe? Even if you're at a stoplight driving, I get it. We're all very busy, but where can I incorporate this mindfulness and connectedness with everything that I already do? And as we start to feel the ease and the softness that comes with those, we start building them in more. So now maybe we have a 5-minute meditation in the morning or a 10-minute breath work in the afternoon, because we start to really feel, wow, that soothes me. And that actually fills me up to have more energy for everything else I need to get done.
That is such a brilliant perspective because so often people think self-care is going getting my nails done, getting my hair done, going to a spa. But self-care is truly getting in touch with the divine within us and tapping in and harnessing that feminine power. And that feminine power is so undervalued and underappreciated in a go, 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 get things done world. A lot of times I tend to believe women are unhappy or upset, whether professionally or in personal life, because they never get to authentically live in their energetic source. They are so busy chasing outcome and results and being on that go, 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 let's get done masculine energy that they don't feel connected to themselves, therefore they can't connect to anything else. What advice do you have for women to know that they can have a profession and do everything they do and yet stay connected to their source so that their powerful presence will attract everything else? The feminine energy is an attracting energy. It's not a pushing and getting things done energy, but attracting things and through that abundance accomplishing things.
It's so true that that divine feminine is the receptive, it's the receiving. And so many of us think we're so strong and powerful when we just want to get it done. So, relaxing into that, I love to tell people when they're in a calm and relaxed state to create their self-care list and to really spend, 30 minutes and make a list of 5 second, 30 second, 5 minute. So, whenever you are feeling crazy or out of sorts with yourself, you can look at your list then. And maybe it's a 2-minute routine of making your cup of tea, but not waiting until you're in this frazzled state of mind where you're stressed to think of, oh, how do I get back there? One of my personal favorites is organizing a drawer. When my world is feeling chaotic and stressed, it gives me a sense of calm, and that's a 5-minute chore. It could be a whole closet if I have 3 hours, but even just that 5 minutes, it brings me back to center. Now, we each have different tools to come back to center. It could be dancing, it could be closing our eyes, it could be taking a walk in nature. But when we really tap into the wisdom inside, we know what soothes us. We know what really feels like care. So having that list to go to when you are out of sorts and feeling chaotic is just a great quick. And I keep it on my phone because my phone's always with me, but you can put sticky notes up all over your house too. Just gentle reminders of maybe it's your breath. Oh, just take a 10-second deep inhale and exhale. And what I found is when we start practicing these calming tools more, we start really using them more because we feel that reconnection to ourself, and it feels so yummy and nourishing.
I am sitting here just kind of laughing because I am the ultimate person you're describing. I remember saying to my children, just go do something productive. I don't care what it is, just go be productive. And one of my prime values is people who are proactive. When you see something that needs to be done, you don't have to wait to be told, just be proactive. And so I'm like the walking advertisement for or example of what you're talking about. And so what I'm wondering, and Cass actually asked the question that I was thinking of asking. So I'm going to turn to maybe an example or a story. Have you had some examples of women who were very go, 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 get done, get done, get done? And I'll say this. I had never equated this getting done, being proactive with masculine energy, and that there's something complementary to that in the feminine energy. I'd never viewed that. Um, and that in today's world, in today's women's world, it's like, yeah, you want to get stuff done. You got to break that glass ceiling. You got to climb that ladder. And so my question is, do you have some examples of women, obviously anonymously, of course, where they have shared a transformation story that might be prototypical of what you see in your workshop, that something we could look forward to?
Absolutely. The last co-ed firewalk I had 3 couples attend. And it was shared with me after that 2 of the couples were on the brink of divorce. And equally, they both had enough breakthroughs with the fire that they reported back to me it saved their marriage. It literally reshaped, retransformed the way they thought. And the third couple actually got engaged after the fire walk. So those are like little tidbits of transformation when people start returning to themselves. They get the clarity that they need for their next steps. And when I have people cross the coals, I have them visualize, what do I want to leave behind and what do I want to walk towards, and let the coals burn off whatever doesn't serve you. And people start to feel differently. Now, women, I do a lot of work just separate with women, the most amazing shifts. And I will share that typically when women go through these times, about half marriages improve and half the marriages end. And I share that because as we start to do the work on ourselves, we change, we evolve, we elevate, and our relationships around us change. And people either elevate and shift with us or they fall away because they no longer serve us. So it's very interesting to watch someone that's been working with me for maybe 9 years or 8 years and their path. And it's, it looks like this, it may look like this, but it never stays the same. Once we start doing the work, the change is inevitable. And we get to this point where we get excited about the obstacles. Like, oh, wow, what is going to be on the other side of this one? Because we develop the tools to process them, to stay calm, and to know the expansion that's going to come after this lesson.
That is very interesting to hear, and I'm not surprised. We're living in a world where the economics of things, the definition of success, everything is based on the patriarchy. Intentionally or unintentionally, that's how the world has evolved. And so the patriarchy's definition of what is work, what is success, what is a career, what does it take to be a successful person, all of that doesn't sit in the feminine. And yet that's where everybody is striving for. And a lot of times I hear young people say, Dr. Cass, when you talk like this, it's triggering me because I can't be the way you think of being feminine is, because I have to compete in a masculine world, and those kind of phraseology and conversations are triggering because they have been somehow convinced that success means they have to be like the boys, right? And so what advice would you have for young women who truly are coming into their own, to own their power and see the power in that femininity? Because we don't all need to be the same. Nature wired us differently and built us differently for a purpose. Going back to the statement of purpose. And so, how do we still live and sit and breathe in our purpose and still define success congruent to our purpose?
There are so many energetic shifts going on right now for the feminine rebirth. It's happening in all of my communities. It's really realizing that the divine feminine is more powerful, arguably, than the sacred masculine. You know, as you said when we opened, we are the ones that have the power to create. And somehow our story has shifted into being soft and weak. And when I talk to women, I work a lot with senior corporate executives. They say, "Oh, you know, the men don't like me in the boardroom when I get all, you know, they'll use the word bitchy." And it's like, well, right, because you're bringing in that masculine energy. And when we bring in the masculine against a masculine, this happens. But when we elevate into our divine feminine energy, it's actually far more powerful, but it also allows the space for men to elevate into their healthy masculine. And it gives them the room to be the kind of men we're also yearning for, to be able to hold the space for us. So it's really shifting that way of thinking. You know, the divine feminine is a strong, badass goddess. You know, she's not just all flowery walking around. She is strong and powerful, but also receptive and in the flow. And I invite people, just experiment with it. Experiment with how you feel when you're all masculine and you're getting your checklist done and pushing through things. And then do a little experiment where a few hours you're going to be receptive. Maybe you'll accept help from someone. And how does it feel to be in that energy? And when we tap into how things feel rather than how we think, that's when we can really tell. And everyone's like, oh, wow. Yeah, I actually feel stronger. I feel more open and more flow starts coming to me than when I'm forcing. And if we can just get people to try it, they know, our bodies know. This ancient wisdom, it's all within all of us.
Yeah, this is really interesting. It's really redefining the notions of strength. It's redefining the notions of power. I know that there's a lot of talk about, patriarchy, and I agree, a lot of bad things have come from patriarchy. And in the tiny, tiny bit of research that I've done on matriarchy, is that there's some similar results of matriarchy and patriarchy have similar results. And so I'm now thinking that in reality, we need to look at how do we hold power, how do we hold strength, how do we become powerful, how do we become strong. That there's just a whole different world, different definitions out there, and better outcomes than either patriarchy or matriarchy, which would lead us to a whole nother interview. But amazingly enough, this 25 minutes has flown by. And so before Cass wraps it up, we absolutely want our guests to know how can they get a hold of you, learn more about your work, and then what are one or two golden nuggets that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook, Daphne Paras, also LinkedIn, and my website is sacredseeker.com. I love connecting with new people. Some nuggets. I love what you were just saying about the patriarchy and the matriarchy. And I really want to invite people to keep an open mind and hold the intention for healing for all. This isn't about man versus women. We want us all to rise up and be powerful in our own true, authentic essence. I believe we all come here with a set of gifts to make the world a better place. It's about uncovering all the layers of beliefs and judgments that get in our way of living those gifts. So find some routine, something intentional that brings you back to who you truly are. Stick with it, foster it, feed it, and make it grow.
Thank you so much, Daphne. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. And I can't tell you how much Robin and I have enjoyed this and see the power of this, especially given the time and place we are in our world. This is even more important. So thank you for bringing all of your insights and experiences, and the journey that you're mapping out is going to be so valuable. We appreciate that. And to our audience out there, life is about finding that balance inside of you, finding that balance around you, and finding that balance in all the relationships we get involved in, whether it's a marriage, whether it's friendships, whether it's work, whether it's community. When there is balance and everybody feels like the space is held for them, everybody has a reason to engage with one another. And then together we get to live our purpose and build our shared purpose. And that is truly where the power of an entire human society is. So let's start with investing in ourselves, finding that inner balance, finding that inner divine, and then from that space, then take it out into the world so that we can truly collectively work on something that is going to make this a better place, not just for us, but for our children and our